Hello and welcome to Scouser Tommies on Anfield Index. I'm Jim Boardman, and as always, I'm with Jay Reid. And it's fair to say that this week we're coming from a place of much controversy, maybe, because we had the sort of party kind of upset the other day a little bit. Because, the party was we were playing Arsenal, we were beating them, we've already won the league. They'd had to do the guard of honour, guiding Liverpool onto the pitch. All that was great, and of course, I wouldn't say the party was spoiled, but the whole story changed because of a substitution in the second half, which was a player who's announced he's leaving on a free transfer, despite owning debt to the club, as he put it. He's leaving, and he came on the pitch, and surprisingly for some, but not surprisingly for others, there was booing, and I think there's been a lesson learned there, I would say, for Arnie Slot, because this is my quick view on it. I've already discussed it on Post-Match Raw the other day a little bit as well. I think wherever you can't tell other people what to think and how they're going to feel about something. You can't even tell other people how to act in the ground, you might ask. My own feeling is that if I was there at the time, I would have tried to hold back on the booing. Would I have held back on it? I'm not sure. And what I certainly wouldn't have been doing is sort of clapping and cheering him and everything. And to be honest with you, it's one of those situations I would have felt really torn about what to do and how to react, because there's part of me saying, if they're on that pitch wearing that shirt, they're playing for us. You want us to win. You don't want to do anything that'll jeopardise that, so you wouldn't boo in that case. But on the other side, we've already won the league. The result doesn't matter. It's not going to take the league away from us. Whatever the result is, we still won that. We still got that. That's still in the bag. And maybe a message needs to be sent out to people that, we're not going to take things lying down that easily. And I think, there's a lot more we can talk about on this, I'm sure. I wonder if Jordan Henderson's departure had been sort of properly, in place just before the end of the season. If we'd known he was leaving a few games in, would there have been the same kind of response he got, the sort of treatment he got towards the end of his time at Anfield? Would there have been booing for him if he'd had a couple of games left? One player who has been booed, but's got it, and he's been talking about it, was Michael Owen. But Michael Owen, he got booed because he came onto the pitch as a player in another team's shirt, and he came on because basically, as far as fans were concerned, he'd messed us about with his move from Real Madrid to Newcastle. And then just to prove we were sort of maybe right on that score, he went and joined Man United later, didn't he? So there's loads of people putting their own sort of views in and everything as well. But I think what we're not getting a lot of, certainly not on the sort of mainstream media, is how fans locally feel about it. And I think there's just a thing about players who are local, and I might be right, I might be wrong. There's a perception for fans from maybe outside Merseyside saying that local players get more leeway, they get more lenience. I've heard loads of people say that. Our players had a couple of bad games, and it's like, he wouldn't be getting, if he was from London, he wouldn't be getting that. So, you get all this stuff off people. I don't think that's the case. I think at times more criticism is aimed at the local lads. There's kind of high standards expected of them, and when they don't live up to those standards, they will get criticised. But there is also understanding, and there's also a feeling that, if they're giving everything, then they're not going to get any complaints. And really, that's how Liverpool fans are to every player. But Trent, he would have been, without this move, he would have been front and centre on all the celebrations now. He'd have been getting his song sung left, right and centre. There'd have been ovations and everything, I suppose, as he came on for Conor Bradley, if that had been the case. But no, it was all different. He is local. The way he's left was interesting. He left. He announced it. The club sort of reacted to it rather than sort of announcing it with him. He's leaving us, and it's upset people. Was it a surprise, do you think, Jay, that people started booing? You were there. And from what you were telling me beforehand, it wasn't a shock when the booing happened.
No. Old piece of Matt Ball read the team news out at the beginning of the game, as he always does, and he does obviously do it in positional order for the starting 11, then for the substitutes he does it in numerical order. So obviously, given the way the squad was lined up on Sunday, only Jarell Kwanzaa come off the Trent Alexander-Arnold in the announcements of the team. Not that anyone would have known, because there was a resounding boo around the stadium. when Trent's name was read out. And I think, it's kind of one that probably needs a little bit of explaining to the wider fan base of Liverpool and the football fandom itself, and, there's a unique thing about being from Liverpool and being a Scouser, and that's what we pride ourselves on. Like you sort of, you wear it as a cloak of, pride and a badge of identity, really. And it's sort of one of like a good old saying is you can always spot a Scouser on holiday. Wherever you go around the world, you'll be able to find one and stuff like that. And it's a huge pride thing for myself. It's probably a pride thing for a hell of a lot of people as well. And what it also is like people who aren't from the city, sort of, if you've got any sort of connection or affinity, whether it be through the football teams, and I'm including Everton in that, whether it be music, whether it be culture, art, there's a lot going on in our city, and there's a lot that we're proud of, and we're not afraid to sing and shout about it. And a lot of people, not a lot of people, yes, I suppose actually a lot of people do have a preconceived perception of Liverpool as a city and Scousers as people, and that's often changed when they come into contact with the city or Scouse people, especially a mix of Scouse people, local people in our environments, and it often then changes their perception of how they've maybe been told the stereotype is, because that's what narratives and mainstream media might want you to believe. But actually, we always sort of have this open door policy where we say, well, no, come on in, have a look around. We've got nothing to hide. Like, that we're not going to be false. We're not going to sugarcoat things. We are very genuine people and very honest people. And the way I see it is, we are very honest, but don't play with our honesty. Don't take us for mugs or fools, and the people around the city will always be more than happy to give someone a leg up, put an arm around the shoulder, give them a hand if they can help it. You know what I mean? Like there's often the saying, you'll give someone the coat off your back if they're cold, and you'd rather go cold yourself if they need it. And to be able to make sure no one goes without wanting. We're one of the most charitable cities. You look at the food banks, for example, like A, it shouldn't be a thing, but B, Liverpool and Everton fans are one of the biggest contributors to food banks, not just in the city, but also around the country whenever they go away. Which says a lot, and also smacks in the face of the mocking of the songs that we get from other fan bases, which we'll come back to later on. But what we are is like, we don't want to be sort of taking the piss out of, and that's how it feels with Trent. He's a local lad. Everybody around the city from a Liverpool persuasion always wants to see local lads get in the team. But yes, they are very harshly criticised. Like if Trent had a bad game, it will be more than said. Like he's had a stinker there. Curtis Jones for years, breaking through, was very harshly criticised, sometimes overly harshly criticised, especially in the local media and the fan base, because, you think, well, you're lucky enough to be a local lad who's pulled on that shirt. We want a bit more. We expect a bit more. So, maybe the perception that you get away with it is slightly wrong. And the feeling basically is, in and around the city is, we're happy to see Trent has risen to the top, but this is the very pinnacle of the game for us. Like, you wouldn't want to go anywhere else. Like, growing up on the streets of Liverpool, your ambition as a child is, I want to play for Liverpool, or I want to play for Everton. I mean, maybe if you're an Evertonian, you might want to play somewhere bigger than beyond than Everton, but, any Evertonian as a young child growing up would want to play for Everton. But why would you want to go anywhere bigger? We're at the very, very top of the English game right now, and that's how it is to us. Is what is it that makes you think that you are better than us? Because you've came from nothing, you're one of us. You said you wanted to captain the club. In essence, there could have been a discussion where, the Steven Gerrard, Sami Hyypiä situation from years gone by, where Virgil might have possibly even handed the armband over next summer, where he's only got a year left on this deal, and said, you know what, I'm going to hand it over to the local lad. Because, he's on record, he's on videos, Trent is saying, that's my dream, that's my ambition, is to captain this club. And, if he wants to go on and do other things, fine. But don't forget where you came from, and that's what it is. Like, he seems to have, it comes across as though he seems to have forgotten where he's come from, and he's not giving us anything back. He's sliding off to Real Madrid, and, he can't give us a fee. He can't even say, like, yes, some people are saying he give us 20 years and he's won every trophy for us, but he's walking out, and the only beneficiary of it is himself. And, you think of other players who have played for other clubs. Alexis McAllister signed a contract, so Brighton got a decent fee for him. Jack Grealish, Declan Rice, boyhood clubs that come through at West Ham and Aston Villa, but they ensured that they were contracted, and yes, they wanted to move on to so-called bigger clubs and try and achieve bigger things in the game that they might not have thought was possible with those two clubs. But they walked out, and the clubs got a massive fee for them, which then they could reinvest and they could improve. And, I think Declan Rice and Jack Grealish would be open arms received back at Aston Villa and West Ham. Right now, I don't think Trent Alexander-Arnold will be received back at Anfield or Liverpool for a long time because of the way this has played out. And it all comes down to clarity. We knew pretty much hand on heart last summer, if we had 3 contracts to be signed, the chances are 1 would definitely be signed, 2 probably, and we hoped for, but all 3 was probably unlikely. And the one that everyone sort of put a ring around, the unlikely one, was Trent. And we all sort of knew, so it was no big secret. With the fascination with Madrid and Jude Bellingham and whatever, but it was like, well, give something back to us, even if he had signed a year or 2 deal and we got 30, 40, 50 million for him in the summer, it would have given us the opportunity to replace him and move on, where we don't seem to have that. And it's left a sour taste, and all the cryptic messages, and you look back for the season of shushing the fans and the hand chatting to the ear, with the goal against West Ham, and it was like, was that aimed at us? Because he went over to the away fans and he was like, all this chatting in the ear stuff. Is that you saying, like, shut up? Like, and that's how it's coming across now, because these questions need to be answered, and it's riled a lot of people. It's got a lot of people's backs up, and that's why there was such a reaction. And you think, that the fans in the ground on the weekend, I would say the negative reaction towards Trent was probably 70-30 in the area that I was. I can't speak for all corners of the ground because it's a sort of warped noise that you hear. But, negative reaction when his name was read out, when he come out to warm up, when he come off the bench, and I think, it was warranted. Let him know that we're not happy with what you've done here. Like, it's not on. I don't necessarily agree maybe with, booing his every touch while he was then playing. Because it then probably did have a negative effect on the team. When he comes back in the Real Madrid shirt, yes, boo every single touch, that then it's, it's fair game. But, when he's come on, we've let him know. And I think maybe then it probably, we should have just reeled off, the booing. There was the irony that the Steven Gerrard Scouser Born and Bred song got a rendition. Just let him know that what big Scousers should be doing. The one Conor Bradley got more than one outing on the weekend, and maybe that's what the approach then should have been. We let him know when he's got on the pitch, but just sing and cheer for the rest of the team. Sing other players' songs. And I think he knew when he walked on that pitch, even to go onto the subs bench once his name was read out. Like he would have heard that reaction in the dressing room, and then when he went out to warm up, and obviously then when he came on the pitch, he would have known. You've upset a lot of people here, and what it is actually, it's a really sad situation, because this could have all been avoided with a bit more openness, a bit more clarity. Had he been open enough to just say, maybe even in January when he can actually talk to foreign clubs legally, because let's not pretend that Real Madrid haven't been doing this for a while. He could have openly just said, I'm giving everything I've got to win this league title for the fans, but I fancy a new challenge. And I've said it many a times in the last few months. I think more people would have been accepting of that fact that he had just said, I've won absolutely everything here. The team's in great hands. We're going on at the time in January. We were chasing everything. I'm going to give it all. And
Right, the Reds, it's Jack here, and that was a clip from one of Anfield Index's audio podcasts. If you have enjoyed the video, make sure you do like, share and subscribe to keep up to date on all things LFC. We record around 100 audio podcasts every month, with our shows featuring match-going fans, top journalists, professional analysts and even Liverpool legends along the way, with the Great Dane himself, Jan Molby, joining us every single week. If you want to listen to all our podcasts for free, head over to anfieldindex.com/podcasts. Our audio shows are available wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Anfield Index. Or if you prefer to listen to all our podcasts in full and without any ads, why not head over to AI Pro today to check it out now at AnfieldIndexPro.com. If you want to get involved in the great growing community of Liverpool fans, check out the Anfield Index Discord. The link is in the description. Do get involved with that, from Reds around every corner of the globe. For now, Reds, hope you enjoyed this video.